This is Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL, WPRS, HD2, and worldwide on WOLDCnews.com. Montgomery Mosaic features topics of interest to Montgomery County residents, businesses, and visitors. Here now is your host, Deborah Milo.
Good morning, Montgomery County, and welcome to another edition of Montgomery Mosaic. County citizens, do you know about the Montgomery County Alerting System? Well, today's guest is Chuck Crisosimo, Operations Division Chief, who oversees the Montgomery County Department of Emergency Services and Homeland Security's coordination efforts, which includes Alert Montgomery. Chuck, good morning and welcome to Montgomery Mosaic. It's great to have you on the show today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with a little more explanation of just what Alert Montgomery really means. What kind of warnings or alerts do people receive from Alert Montgomery?
Well, Alert Montgomery is a system that's been in place since about 2006. It is a system that is designed to have residents and businesses subscribe to the service and receive alerts from traffic incidents that are occurring on all the major roads that are significant traffic incidents, weather emergencies such as blizzards, tornadoes is the big one, or severe thunderstorms. But there could be other types of emergencies, gas leaks, hazardous material spills, but anything that we think that residents should be alerted to and be cautious about and take some preventive measures to stay safe.
So the alert system is not just confined to Montgomery County. The system serves the whole National Capital Region, correct?
Yes, the Alert Montgomery system is part of the National Capital Region's contract for alerting services. There are 18 jurisdictions in the National Capital Region. We are one in Montgomery County, but Washington, D.C., Prince George's County, Fairfax County all have their own separate alerting systems. And a contract was issued for this by the National Capital Region for all these jurisdictions. And so we simply fall within that. We do send out our alerts by email, by text message, and we have the capability to send by voice. So we're not going to opt to use that very often, but in severe emergencies, we want to hit all paths possible.
This is Montgomery Mosaic, and I'm your host, Deborah Milo. Today we're talking with Chuck Crisosimo, who oversees the Alert Montgomery Communications Service for the county. Now, Chuck, you're promoting the fact that the Alert Montgomery system, as well as the whole area, has been enhanced. Does this mean people will receive different types of alerts?
Yes, the alerts are going to be a lot the same as we have sent in the past, but residents will have more specificity. So what I mean by that is if you select to get severe traffic alerts, you will still get basically the same alerts we've sent in the past. So if a major state road or an interstate is blocked for a prolonged period of time, those are the alerts we will send. But on the weather side is really where it changes quite a bit.
Right.
We have a group called the Severe Weather Group, and if you signed up for that, any type of weather that comes along, you will get an alert. In the new system, you can actually opt for the specific types of weather alerts that you would like to get, such as a blizzard, a severe thunderstorm, a tornado, frost warnings are in there as well, and severe wind advisories, which can be a problem in fire season. So we give you a lot more choices in the alerts, and we also give residents a choice for a quiet period. So as these alerts are going out, you can choose that between 9 p.m. in the evening to 6 o'clock in the morning to not receive these alerts. Right now in our current system, if we sent out alerts across the evening, you would receive those alerts. But on the new system, you could actually choose those quiet periods, which is really nice.
So you can actually customize it. That is nice. I like that idea. So if I wanted to get up, and if I get up at 4 a.m. in the morning, I can customize the system to send me the alert between the hours that I'm actually awake, between 4 a.m. and let's say 6 p.m. that evening, correct?
That is correct, with one exception.
Okay.
And that is for tornadoes.
Oh.
Tornado alerts, when they come out, we send those out with about a 10 to 12-minute notice, and we will send those no matter what time of day, because we think that is such a severe emergency that everyone should get that message.
Oh, absolutely. How often have we, in your experience, how often have we sent out tornado alerts here in the county?
Well, we had the tornado alert just go out last week, actually.
That's right.
In the Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County areas. The National Weather Service saw some circulation indicative of a tornado, and they sent out that warning. It did go to a few people in Montgomery County, in the very southern part of the county, but in 2013, in June, we actually had an F0 that came down into the county and went straight through downtown Rockville. So we do get these. Now, an F0 is not a very strong tornado, but it did damage to about 30 homes with fallen trees on the homes, and in some cases created some severe damage.
That's not good. That's not good at all, because in my opinion, especially being from the Midwest, whenever you get any kind of tornado alert, it's usually a very, very bad experience, trust me. Talk a little about the types of devices on which people can receive alerts, because, you know, we've got our phones now, we've got our tablets. There's so many options. So are those devices able to get alerts as well?
Absolutely. Smartphones now, with the inception of smartphones, they're everywhere, and lots of people have them. So we do send out our alerts by email, by text message, and we have the capability to send by voice. So we're not going to opt to use that very often, but in severe emergencies, we want to hit all paths possible. With the new enhanced system, we also have a mobile member app. So this mobile app is downloadable from an Android or an Apple phone. You just go to Everbridge. You just look for Everbridge in the Play Store and download the mobile member app to your phone or your smartphone, and that device will has probably the quickest turnaround time for the alerts being received by individuals. So we're real happy to see that. We see people signing up for it already. It's a brand new feature, and we think over time that it'll become a very significant method by which people receive their alerts. And
that's something that current subscribers can do to take advantage of the enhancements, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, very nice. If you've just tuned in, welcome to Montgomery Mosaic, and I'm your host, Deborah Milo. And my guest today is Chuck We've talked about this, the pronunciation of his last name, Crisostomo, with Montgomery County's Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security. We're talking about the Alert Montgomery system. What about those people who aren't already subscribers? What do they do?
Well, we would like to encourage all residents, businesses, folks that work in Montgomery County to sign up for this system. It's very simple to do. You just Google Alert Montgomery, or you can go and type in alert.montgomery at montgomerycountymd.gov, and you'll go straight into a sign-up page where you'll enter a username and a password, and then it'll ask for an address. The reason we do that is so that if we do these very specific weather types of alerts, it'll send you alerts specifically for the addresses that are of interest to you. So we encourage folks to put in their home address or a school that their kids might be going to,
right,
or the place that they work. Some folks are a little apprehensive about putting a home address into some things, so we simply encourage you to put an address in. It could be an address for the fire station nearby to your home. It could be your community center, but at least have an address close to the places of interest to you, and then you'll receive those alerts.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the next step then is just to select the alerts that you want. So besides the weather emergencies, we also have other users on our system, other folks that can send on our system. So Montgomery County Public Schools is a large participating group in our Alert Montgomery system.
I would imagine.
And what they have the capability to do is send out messaging to those folks that want to receive it for school closures because of either weather conditions or, some other emergency specific to an individual school or for the entire school system. So they are a large user in our system. The Park and Planning Commission also uses our service to notify folks about parks that are closed fields that their kids go play soccer on. If they're closed for the day, if you sign up for the service, you will be notified that field is closed for the day. Our health group is now coming on for health alerts, which is a big concern these days.
Absolutely.
With a few of the illnesses that are circulating in our community. And we think that there'll be other organizations in the future, other county agencies that might be able to, might want to set up alerting features.
If a potential subscriber has trouble going through the process of signing up or changing their account, is there a way they can get more personal help? You know, we're still, even though we're in the technology age, if you will, folks still want to have a human voice to be able to talk to. Is there an actual way they can get that personal help?
Oh, absolutely. We have the Montgomery County 311 line. It's a general emergency line for Montgomery County. We have created a set of scripted answers for the call takers at our 311 center that can help individuals with that. But if they don't have the expertise or enough of the capability, they will simply refer that customer to us at our Office of Emergency Management, and we will personally walk folks through the registration process, deal with any issues they might have with the system, and be able to resolve their problems.
You're listening to Montgomery Mosaic with your host, Deborah Milo, and my guest today is Chuck Chrysostomo with the county's Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security. Now, is there, you know, we're very fiscally wise in this county. Is there a cost involved in getting the Alert Montgomery warnings?
The service is free to sign up for and free to receive. We do send text messages out as a part of the service that we do, and so there might be some text costs associated with your receipt of text messages. It really depends on the type of subscription you have with your cell service carrier. And so you need to check with your carrier to make sure about those charges. What we have reviewed recently is that most of the major services, such as Verizon, Sprint, etc., have discontinued those individual text charges. So for it, but there still may be carriers out there that do that. So we ask folks to check with your carrier about those types of charges.
If a person wants to get alerts from a jurisdiction other than Montgomery County, how do they go about doing that?
Well, we have, like I said, 18 jurisdictions in the National Capital Region, and so they would need to sign in specifically to each of those. Okay. And in Montgomery County, the cities of Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Tacoma Park have their own separate systems. So if they wanted to receive alerts for specifically those jurisdictions, they would need to go to Alert Gaithersburg, Alert Rockville, or Alert Tacoma Park to receive those.
Okay, Chuck?
The website for our agency is where a lot of this information is contained, preparedness information. So you can go to the Montgomery County website at www.montgomerycountymd.gov. If you want to go specifically to our site, it's that same URL /OEMHS. And it'll take you straight to our website. All this pamphlet and preparedness information is accessible on that site.
Great. We'll be back. This is Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL. We'll be right back.
1450 WOL.
Good morning. This WOL Traffic Update is brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Inbound New York Avenue is still very slow approaching North Capitol Street, where the left side of the road squeezing by the roadwork. Once again today, delays from the 9th Street Bridge, Brentwood Parkway, inner loop at the Beltway after University Boulevard, gravel and rocks in the roadway. The two center lanes are closed with delays approaching Silver Spring on the inner loop eastbound on the Beltway. Ready your jacket and your radiator. Just like you, your car needs to be winter ready. So stop by your neighborhood Jiffy Lube to check your radiator, wipers, and lights. Now your WOL weather forecast brought to you by Heritage for the Blind for today. A few afternoon clouds, high near 46. Partly cloudy overnight down to 31 tomorrow. Partly cloudy, a few snow flurries possible, a high near 41. Be a star. Donate your car to Heritage for the Blind. Call 1-800-DONATE-CARS or 1-800-446-1234. Mostly sunny and 36 degrees right now, Washington, D.C. Steve Hirschhorn for News Talk 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Dad, remember beans and hot dogs for breakfast? Huh? Well, whenever Mom would go out of town, you make the same thing over and over for breakfast. Beans and hot dogs.
What? I don't remember that. Anyway, what kind of dad makes beans and hot dogs for breakfast?
You did, and I loved it.
You never know which moments will be the ones they remember forever. So take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Your voice can now be heard.
Y'all ready?
Yeah. With Carl Nelson weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on 1450 WOL.
What we're seeing now is beyond belief. But what you're seeing is because you open your eyes. There's some people so dumbed down, comatose, brainwashed, inoculated, vaccinated, encrypted, and scared to face facts that they'll try and not see whatever their eyes see because they can't explain it. It scares them to death.
Carl Nelson live and local from 6 to 10 a.m. on 1450 WOL.
Listeners, welcome back to Montgomery Mosaic. This is your host, Deborah Milo. Today, we're talking about the Alert Montgomery system with Chuck Crisostomo with the county's Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security. And Chuck, before we took a quick break, we were talking a little bit about what would happen from someone if they want to get an alert from a jurisdiction other than Montgomery County. In other words, how they go about doing that. For those that didn't get a chance to hear that, could you mind going back over that again, please?
Oh, sure. Again, there are 18 jurisdictions in the National Capital Region. In Montgomery County, we have 4 of those systems. The Montgomery County alert system, called Alert Montgomery. Then the cities of Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Tacoma Park all have their own separate systems as well. And so to receive those, you would have to go to those separate systems to sign up to receive their individual alerts. If you go into their systems, the one thing that you can select to receive from each of their individual systems and from Montgomery County is the traffic alerts.
Okay.
We've intertwined our system in the structure of how we created it so that we can, if there is a major roadway incident that is a prolonged outage on a major state road or a major interstate, we will send those alerts and we will send them into the Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Tacoma Park systems as well. Because we're all intertwined with the roadways in Montgomery County, we decided as a jurisdiction to intertwine our systems. We're the only ones in the National Capital Region that are doing this, by the way. But we worked so closely together that we thought that this was a very good idea. But to get the individual emergency alerts from those specific systems, you would have to sign on separately with them.
Which makes sense, actually. Would you mind, Chuck, giving the website again for citizens to be able to access to get Alert Montgomery?
Sure. For Alert Montgomery, you can either Google Alert Montgomery or simply type in alert.montgomery at montgomerycountymd.gov. And it'll take you straight to a sign-up page. You enter in a username and a password that is specific for you, and then an address. And these are addresses of concern. So if you wanted to receive alerts about situations near your home, you could put that in. If you had kids in school, you could put that address. If you wanted to put an address in other than your home, you could put a fire station nearby or a community center nearby.
Very nice. You're listening to Montgomery Mosaic with your host, Deborah Milo, talking today with Chuck Crisostomo with the Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security for Montgomery County. You know, Chuck, I would think that people really benefit from Alert Montgomery when there's a heavy snow. Now, you know, the past couple of years, we've had some pretty heavy snowstorms. What kinds of information does Alert Montgomery provide during the snow emergencies?
Well, snow emergencies generally don't sneak up on you, so it's one of the ones we can get some prediction on 24 hours out. So we will send usually a watch that'll come out. So the National Weather Service will issue that as a watch, meaning a storm has a potential to hit the area. As the time approaches for the actual storm, then a warning will go out, a winter storm warning. And that typically will have more specific information about at least what the predicted snowfall will be, and so folks can get an idea of how to plan their days.
Right.
But that predicted snowfall is not always exactly accurate, I will tell you. And so in this past winter, for instance, we had one winter storm warning that came out that was talking about an 8-inch snowfall, and we ended up getting 23 inches up in Damascus.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's still a little bit of an art and a science in the weather predictions game, but we take the information directly from the National Weather Service, and we will convey that out via the alert system to get folks up. And then we'll also, if it's a prolonged situation, give them information about what they can do within their homes to stay safe, particularly if the power goes out. During the derecho event in 2012, we had a prolonged outage for 7 days in some people's cases.
That's right.
And so what do people do with the food in their refrigerator, for instance?
Right.
So we had the health department craft up some do's and don'ts about what to do with the food. We had a lot of folks with debris in their yards and along the street. So we sent out messaging again about what to do, what the pickup times were, that the county was going to come along and pick up that debris, on how people should package it before we come on pickup day. And so that was very helpful. We really did come out of that. That was one of the bigger events we've had in recent past. So we will give additional information if we had a major gas leak. We would be evacuating an area. We would send the notification only to those residents in the area of concern. And then we would give them, again, some do's and don'ts about where to go, and when to return back when it was safe.
I was just about to ask you about the preparedness information and what kinds of tips that you would offer, so that's good to know. That's very good to know. This is Deborah Milo of Montgomery Mosaic, and I'm talking today with Chuck Christosimo with the Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security for the county. And we were just talking about some of the types of preparedness information that the emergency management services can offer along with the Alert Montgomery alerts. What about pets, Chuck? You know, people love their animals and they want to protect them just like the rest of the family. What kind of tips do you offer about protecting pets in an emergency situation?
We have a lot of information that we've developed over the last couple of years for preparedness for lots of different groups of folks in Montgomery County. From the general family, general residents of Montgomery County, we've got a series of pamphlets that have all the preparedness information. What kinds of things you need to do in your home to be prepared. We have a series that was created for senior citizens and what kinds of things that they need to do, because their situations might be slightly different in that they have lots of medications that they need to have, and you need to have a good supply of those. If we have a major emergency that runs for 7 days and lots of things are closed, including pharmacies, you will not be able to renew a prescription, for instance.
That's right.
We have some tips in there about that. We absolutely have a pamphlet that's created for pets, because in an emergency we found that people will not leave their homes if a call for an evacuation comes out unless they bring their pet with them. It has been in the past that we've set up shelters which did not accept pets.
Oh, I see.
And so what people will do is they'll stay in their home and remain in danger. So what we've done is two things. One, created information about what to do and how to be prepared with your pet as well. And we've now created a separate volunteer group to set up a pet shelter. In the event that people need to have shelter, we will create a separate adjacent shelter facility for pets. And then the humans go on another side of the shelter. We cannot intermix the two simply because pets are not always compatible with strangers.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Not only that, but they also may not be compatible with other, with people who have allergies. I mean, there's just so many factors to consider about this.
Absolutely.
And I guess you actually need to update the information you provide depending upon what happens. Do you remember when we actually had when we had the earthquake in Montgomery County, even though the epicenter was in Virginia? Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Well, the East Coast is generally not an area that you experience earthquakes. But as soon as that rumbling started, I used to live in an area that was subject to a lot of earthquakes. And
so did I.
When I heard that train coming, I knew what was going to. I was hoping that nothing bigger would follow. And after 12 seconds, it essentially was over in our area. But that earthquake shuddered all the way up through New York. And so it did, fairly little damage in this area, although some structures such as the National Cathedral were and the Washington Monument were severely damaged. But generally, for the most part, we didn't see a tremendous amount of damage. But following that, we had a lot of tips that we sent out through our alert system about what people should check for. Because after an earthquake, the two big issues in buildings and structures is gas and electricity.
That makes sense.
Right. If there's major damage in a facility, you want to be aware of those two things. You don't want to be striking matches. You don't want to be turning on and off light switches, for instance. But the biggest thing about earthquakes and the precaution for earthquakes is you don't want to be running out of the building when the earthquake happens. Many people in Montgomery County, including many Montgomery County employees,
unfortunately,
were running out of buildings. And why you don't want to do that is, number one, the building code for buildings in the United States are sufficient to be able to keep those buildings intact.
Right.
You look at earthquakes that happen in other foreign countries, their building codes are much different. And building collapses are very often seen in those areas. They're not seen with, in the United States. So staying in the building is a safe place you can be, and under a sturdy table is what we recommend. So you tuck, drop, and you get underneath something very sturdy. When the shaking stops, then you make an assessment whether you need to leave that facility or not. And so those are the precautions that we generally send out in our preparedness information about earthquakes.
You're listening to Montgomery Mosaic with host Deborah Milo, and I'm talking to Chuck Crisostomo with the county's Office of Emergency Services and Homeland Security. Chuck, one more time, would you mind giving the website again? I just want to make sure our citizens have access to the information that they need.
The website for our agency is where a lot of this information is contained, preparedness information. So you can go to the Montgomery County website at www.montgomerycountymd.gov. If you want to go specifically to our site, it's that same URL /OEMHS. And it'll take you straight to our website. All this pamphlet and preparedness information is accessible on that site.
Chuck, can you talk a little more about the earthquake in 2011?
Well, again, the frequency of earthquakes is something that's probably not what we need to prepare for the most. What we get in this region is severe thunderstorms, really. The frequency of severe thunderstorms, we get snow every year, and we get, as we did this past spring, all the way into March.
Oh, my.
The months of February and March are really when we get the most snow, not the months of December and January. And so we ask people to be prepared. And what does being prepared mean?
Right.
It means being able to sustain yourself and your family for 72 hours. Now, that's 3 days. Not being able to get a response on a call for police or fire in an emergency, unless it's a severe emergency, because in the 2010 blizzard, for instance, it took 4 hours for ambulance services to be able to plow through to get to the most severe cases that were called in. They could not get to the others.
And like
they triaged the
right.
others out. So you need to be prepared with medications. If you have medical conditions, you need to have food supplies that are able to be, hold you for a period of time. If you don't have flashlights and batteries,
right,
you probably should stock up on those. And the preparedness information that we have on the pamphlets on our website give you those basics of what you need to have in your homes. There are lots of facilities in lots of areas that are prone to storms, generators, backup generators.
That's a good point.
In Montgomery County, it is not something that you see widespread. I am from a small island in the Pacific where typhoons devastated that area, and so about every third family has their own little personal generator.
I understand.
But here we don't probably have that need. What we have set up in the county are for our shelters, those places where we would set up as shelters for folks who have damaged homes or need shelter to have backup generators. So we're building these new recreation facilities that now have backup generator systems built into them. All of our fire stations now have backup generators, and our public safety headquarters, which houses Police Fire Administration, now has a huge backup generator system. So more and more we're developing that capability. But individual homes, it's still really kind of an individual choice for people to make. Being without power for 7 days, as we were in Hurricane Isabel in 2003 and the derecho in 2012, can be a little strenuous, to say the least. So
you're right about that. Chuck, can you talk a little more about winter preparation? You know, we're coming up on that time again, and we need some advice and some tips about how to prepare